In the cold expanse of space where silence reigned supreme, the sudden burst of an alarm shattered the peace of the Galactic Council's main observatory. On a station that hovered like a vigilant sentinel at the edge of civilized space, scientists scrambled to their stations, their screens aglow with streams of data. At the heart of the commotion stood Commander Jason Mars, his eyes fixed on the largest display, where a series of unexplained blips marred the outer rim. Sector Z16, a region that had witnessed nothing but the quiet sweep of distant comets for centuries. Jason's face, lit by the soft blue of the screen, was a mask of concentration, his mind racing to piece together a puzzle that shouldn't exist. "Report!" His voice cut through the low murmur of the observatory like a blade. A young officer, his uniform still creaseless from lack of wear, stepped forward, his report ready. "Sir, sensors detected an anomaly at 0300 hours. It's unlike any spatial disturbance we've recorded. Initial scans suggest it's a vessel, but its signatures are off any known charts." Jason turned back to the display, his hands clasped behind his back. The image before him showed a sleek silhouette cutting through the void, its approach steady and unwavering. This was no rogue asteroid or lost freighter. Its trajectory was too deliberate, its speed too controlled. "Have we made contact?" he asked, his tone even but firm. "No response to our hails, sir. It seems to be on a direct course for the Midgard Station," the officer replied, his voice a notch higher. Midgard Station, a name that brought with it not only the weight of the Galactic Council's authority, but also a beacon of peace in a galaxy fraught with unseen tensions. The idea that something could approach it unchallenged was unthinkable. Jason's gaze never wavered from the screen, his mind working through scenarios with practiced ease. "Prepare the defense protocols. Alert the Council. Whatever this is, it's not stopping to explain itself." As the team around him moved into action, the station itself seemed to brace for the unknown. Outside, the stars watched silently, the eternal witnesses to both human endeavors and cosmic secrets. This breach, this silent herald of change, promised a story that Jason knew they must unravel swiftly. The unknown vessel continued its relentless advance, a specter from the void challenging the very safety they had sworn to uphold. In the deep reaches of space, where light struggled to pierce the darkness, the first chapter of an unforeseen saga was beginning to unfold. The air in the observatory was charged with a palpable tension, the kind that precedes the storm. As Jason watched the shadow of the approaching ship grow larger on the screen, he understood the gravity of what lay ahead. This was more than a mere incursion. It was a test of their readiness, a challenge to their understanding of the universe. And as the alarm continued to echo through the corridors, it was not just a warning. It was a call to the arms of reason against the shadows of the unknown. The unknown vessel's shadow loomed larger on the display, its sleek and enigmatic form cutting through the cosmos towards Midgard Station. Commander Jason Mars's fingers drummed against the cold metal console, a stark contrast to the warmth of his racing pulse. His focus was razor-sharp as he issued commands to his crew, his voice slicing through the thick tension that hung in the air like a fog. "Enhance the visual feed," Jason ordered. The main screen flickered briefly before the image of the approaching ship sharpened, revealing intricate designs etched into its dark hull, patterns that glinted ominously under the distant starlight. The sight sent a shiver down his spine, a mix of awe and apprehension. The metallic tang of ionized particles filled the observatory, a reminder of the vacuum outside, where temperatures fell far beyond freezing and the silence of space was absolute. Inside, however, the station buzzed with the low murmur of voices and the soft clicks of keyboards as data streamed in. "Sir, the ship isn't broadcasting any standard identification codes. Its structure suggests modifications beyond our current engineering capabilities," reported Lieutenant Hawkins, his tone a mix of curiosity and concern. He stood slightly behind Jason, a reliable presence yet careful not to overshadow his commander. Jason nodded, his gaze still fixed on the screen. "Keep trying to establish communication. Use all available frequencies. And get me everything you can on those hull patterns. They might be symbolic or functional. The aroma of coffee wafted from the crew lounge, but it did little to comfort him. Instead, his senses were tuned to the slight vibrations of the station as it adjusted its orbit slightly, standard procedure when preparing for potential conflicts. As the minutes ticked by, a sense of foreboding grew. The crew's efforts to hail the mysterious ship met with silence, the void refusing to divulge its secrets. Jason felt the weight of every second as the ship drew nearer, its intentions as opaque as the void from which it emerged. Suddenly, the station's sensors picked up a subtle shift in the ship's trajectory. "It's altering course, heading straight for our primary communications array," a technician announced, his voice a blend of alarm and disbelief. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Jason commanded, his directive crisp. "And power up the defense shields. We may not know their intentions, but we'll be ready for any actions they take." The atmosphere in the observatory shifted from tense anticipation to controlled urgency. Each crew member moved with purpose, their training kicking in to handle the unknown with precision and calm. Outside, the vastness of space was a tapestry of light and darkness, stars twinkling in the distance, oblivious to the drama unfolding in their midst. The cold touch of the metal beneath his hands grounded Jason as he prepared to face whatever came next. In his ears, the quiet hum of the station was a constant reminder of the thin barrier that separated them from the cosmic dance of chaos and order outside. As the human warship approached, its silent challenge hung between them, a test of will and technology. And as Jason marshaled his crew for whatever response this encounter demanded, the line between friend and foe remained as blurred as the star trails streaking past the observatory windows. As Commander Jason Mars braced for the impending encounter, the space outside Midgard Station transformed from a silent, star-studded tapestry into a theater of suspense and strategy. The unknown vessel, now clearly visible as a sleek harbinger of uncertainty, glided closer, its dark hull reflecting the faint glow of distant celestial bodies. "Visuals on maximum magnification," Jason instructed, his voice a calm force against the backdrop of rising apprehension. The feed zoomed in, revealing the intricate engravings on the ship's surface that seemed to pulse subtly with a life of their own. They were like the ancient runes of a long-forgotten language, speaking of power and mystery. Lieutenant Hawkins stood ready, monitoring the incoming data. "No thermal emissions detected, sir. It's like it's running on cold fusion, if that's even possible with their tech specs." The observatory's air was thick with the scent of high-alert coffee, its bitter trail mingling with the undercurrent of electrical charge that powered the station's high-energy sensors. Each breath felt heavier as the potential for conflict grew palpable, the taste of metal lingering on the tongue from the recycled air. "Keep all channels open. Anything they broadcast, I want to know immediately," Jason added, his gaze not leaving the screens that now seemed to constrict around the looming figure of the human warship. From the corner of the room, a soft chime indicated the arrival of fresh analyses. A junior analyst, her steps a soft echo on the metal floor, approached with a tablet. "Commander, spectral analysis suggests the ship's exterior is not just for show. It might be a form of adaptive armor, reacting to external stimuli." Jason considered this, his mind linking pieces of a puzzle that was as vast as the galaxy itself. "Adaptive, you say? Like it evolves in response to threats?" "Exactly, sir. It's speculative, but the data implies the ship could alter its defenses on the fly." The thought hung in the air, a specter of advanced warfare technology that no treaty had prepared them for. Jason felt the weight of each decision, like the pull of a gravitational field that tugged at the very fabric of his responsibilities. "Prepare the countermeasures," he ordered, his decision resonating through the command center. "But hold until my command. If they're here for dialogue, we won't be the ones to escalate to conflict." As the ship drew nearer, its silence was a stark contrast to the flurry of activity on Midgard. The crew's movements were a ballet of efficiency, each step and action choreographed by countless drills, yet tinged with the spontaneity of the unknown. Outside, the void of space was a canvas of darkness, punctuated by the brilliant pinpricks of distant stars. The human warship, a solitary figure against this vast backdrop, moved with a precision that belied its ominous appearance. In these moments, as the universe seemed to hold its breath, the boundaries between foe and ally blurred into the shadows that danced across the cosmos. Jason knew that the coming hours might redefine the fragile peace that had held the galaxy together. As the silent giant approached, its intentions cloaked in enigma, the taste of impending reality was as sharp as the chill of space itself. As the sleek silhouette of the human warship inched closer, piercing the void with its enigmatic presence, Commander Jason Mars remained steadfast at his post, observing the approach with a stoic resolve. The silence of the command center was profound, mirroring the vacuum of space that enveloped the station, a contrast to the storm of activity hidden beneath the calm exterior of the crew. "Their trajectory is unchanged, sir. Direct course for Midgard's communication array," Lieutenant Hawkins reported, his voice steady, reflecting the gravity of the situation without yielding to panic. Jason nodded slightly, his eyes never leaving the screen. "Visual confirmation of any armaments?" he queried, his mind racing through the myriad of scenarios they might soon be forced to confront. "Negative, sir. No visible weapon systems, but that hull could be hiding more than our sensors can detect," Hawkins replied, the taste of uncertainty bitter on his tongue as he spoke. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee did little to mask the scent of ozone that wafted subtly through the air filters, a byproduct of the station's overworked electrical systems. Jason took a deep breath, the cool, filtered air filling his lungs, sharpening his senses as the reality of the impending encounter settled like frost on the windows of his mind. "Prepare to broadcast our diplomatic codes again. Full spectrum, every language we have. If they're here to talk, we'll hear them out," Jason instructed, his command cutting through the tension like a beacon in the dark. At that moment, the ship's exterior began to change, the intricate engravings on its hull shifting, creating patterns that pulsed gently with a phosphorescent glow. It was like watching an ancient beast stir from slumber, its scales shimmering under the gaze of the cosmos. The sight drew a collective intake of breath from the room. "It's responding to our signals," a technician murmured, awe mingling with a trace of fear in his voice. Jason watched, fascinated and cautious, as the display showed the ship's hull oscillate subtly, the patterns resembling a form of communication. "Record every fluctuation. Anything could be a message," he ordered, his voice a low thrum against the soft whir of computers. As the warship drew nearer, its intentions still shrouded in mystery, Jason felt the weight of history pressing down upon them. This was no ordinary encounter. It was a dialogue centuries in the making, spoken in the language of technology and power. The soft vibration of the station under his feet was a constant reminder of the fragile barrier between them and the void. Jason's focus was unyielding as he watched the warship halt, a silent sentinel now looming ominously close to Midgard Station. The crew remained silent, each member attuned to their duties, the soft clicking of keyboards and the gentle shifting of feet on metal floors, the only sounds in the charged atmosphere. "This is it," Jason spoke, his voice barely above a whisper, yet heard by all. "Stay sharp, everyone. We may be entering a new chapter of human history tonight, for better or worse." Outside, the stars bore witness to the unfolding drama, their light a tapestry woven through the ages, now casting its glow on a new scene in the saga of humanity. The warship, a silent giant holding secrets of a past long thought forgotten, waited just beyond reach, a reminder that in the vast expanse of space, the past was never truly gone. As the warship halted, hovering ominously before Midgard Station, the entire observatory was steeped in a suspense that prickled the skin and tightened the chest. Commander Jason Mars watched, his pulse thrumming in his ears, as the ship's surface continued to ripple subtly, patterns glowing faintly against the stark blackness of space. "Anything!" Jason's voice cut through the silence, sharp and expectant. Lieutenant Hawkins, stationed at the communications panel, shook his head slightly. "Still no verbal response, sir, but these patterns, they're almost rhythmic, like a visual symphony. It could be a form of communication." The room was suffused with the scent of cold metal mixed with the faint odor of nervous sweat, a testament to the tension that gripped the crew. The taste of stale coffee lingered on Jason's tongue, a harsh reminder of the long hours they had spent watching, waiting. "Keep recording every change. Anything could be the key," Jason instructed, his gaze locked on the display where the mysterious ship sat. A silent enigma just out of reach. Suddenly, the patterns on the ship's hull intensified, pulsing more rapidly. A series of soft clicks echoed through the station's speakers, a sound that, while barely audible, sent a shiver down Jason's spine. The clicks were methodical, deliberate, perhaps the closest thing to a heartbeat in the vacuum of space. "Adjust the sensors to analyze this new pattern. It might be a breakthrough," Jason said, his voice steady, despite the flutter of anticipation that coursed through him. At his command, the crew adjusted their instruments, their movements quick and precise. The station itself seemed to breathe in response, the walls and floors vibrating subtly as the sensors aligned to capture every nuance of the alien ship's communication attempt. The screen flickered and then stabilized, showing a new series of intricate patterns that were not just visual, but paired with the clicks, creating a multi-sensory message that was both alien and oddly compelling. "We're piecing it together now, sir. It's complex, like nothing we've seen before," Hawkins reported, his eyes never leaving the data streaming across his monitor. Jason nodded, his thoughts racing. This was it, the moment of truth. Would this be a declaration of peace or a prelude to invasion? The uncertainty was palpable, the taste of fear mingling with hope on the tongue of every crew member. As they worked, the external cameras captured the vastness of space around them, the stars a backdrop to the drama unfolding in their midst. The warship remained still, its presence a colossal shadow cast across the station. Then, without warning, the ship's hull patterns shifted again, forming what appeared to be a coherent sequence. Jason leaned closer, his eyes narrowing as the image sharpened. "It's forming a grid. Some sort of map," Hawkins guessed, tilting his head as he tried to make sense of the visual puzzle. "Yes, but why? What are they trying to show us?" Jason mused aloud, his mind teeming with possibilities. The air was thick with the scent of ozone from the overworked systems, a sharp reminder of the technology straining under the weight of this historic encounter. As the pattern completed its formation, the observatory was bathed in a soft, eerie glow from the display, casting ghostly shadows across the faces of the crew. This communication, cryptic yet undeniably deliberate, was just the beginning. As Jason stood, transfixed by the unfolding message, he knew that the answers they sought were woven into this tapestry of light and shadow. The key to understanding lay just beyond their grasp, and with it, the future of interstellar relations. This was no mere encounter, it was an invitation into the unknown. As the grid-like pattern solidified on the display, a murmur of astonishment swept through the observatory. Commander Jason Mars leaned closer, the light from the screen casting sharp contrasts over his determined features. The lines and nodes on the display formed a star map, one highlighting a specific sector that, until now, had been of little strategic interest. "Could they be pointing us there?" Lieutenant Hawkins whispered, his voice tinged with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The sector in question was a remote expanse of space known for its dense nebular clouds and minimal celestial activity, a place where secrets could easily be hidden. Jason's eyes narrowed as he processed the implications. "Prepare a probe. We need eyes in that sector immediately," he commanded, his voice cutting through the lingering whispers of the crew. The scent of hot electronics filled the air, a stark reminder of the station's systems straining under the unexpected task. A tech officer swiftly keyed in commands, and the sound of the probe's deployment bay doors sliding open resonated through the station's metal framework, a sharp clank that echoed the rising tension. Outside, the vast canvas of space seemed to pulse with unspoken secrets, the stars twinkling like distant eyes, watching the drama unfold. The human warship remained silent, its cryptic message delivered, a silent sentinel waiting for Midgard's response. As the probe disappeared into the darkness, its journey marked by a faint trail of ionized particles, Jason turned to his communications officer. "Keep trying to establish direct communication. Whatever their intentions, we can't afford to stay in the dark." The officer nodded, adjusting the frequency modulator, the clicks and beeps a soft backdrop to the palpable suspense filling the room. Each attempt to reach out was met with silence, but the determination in the room was palpable, every crew member committed to piercing that silence. The taste of stale air mingled with a hint of apprehension as the crew awaited the probe's first transmissions. When the data finally streamed in, the images it sent back were startling. Not just empty space or nebular clouds, but the faint outlines of structures, possibly ships or stations, hidden within the nebula's swirling mists. "Enhance that," Jason said, pointing to a particularly indistinct shape that suggested an artificial origin. The image sharpened, revealing the unmistakable silhouette of a space station, its architecture unlike anything catalogued by the Galactic Council. "Are they staging something there? A fleet or a base?" Hawkins mused, his brow furrowed in concentration. Jason's gaze remained fixed on the screen, his mind racing with possibilities. "Or maybe they're revealing a piece of the puzzle they think we need to see," he suggested, the metallic tang of the station's recycled air filling his lungs as he considered the strategic implications. The revelation did not simplify their situation, it only deepened the mystery. What was hidden in that forsaken sector? And why was it important enough for the human warship to break centuries of silence? As the station orbited silently, its crew vigilant and anxious, the distant hum of the probe faded into the cosmic symphony of the galaxy, a reminder of the vast distances and dark secrets that lay between the stars. With each passing moment, the line between ally and adversary blurred further, weaving a complex tapestry that Jason knew they must unravel, for the stakes had never been higher. The discovery of the nebular station sent ripples of both excitement and apprehension through Midgard Station. Commander Jason Mars stood before the main display, his silhouette etched against the glow of the distant nebula captured on screen, a storm of colors that hinted at hidden depths and secrets. "Sir, we have movement at the station. Looks like some sort of docking procedure," Lieutenant Hawkins reported, his eyes never leaving the readouts as shapes began to stir in the nebular haze. Jason's focus intensified, the reflection of the screen flickering in his sharp gaze. "Prepare the long-range scanners. I want a closer look at whatever is docking there," he ordered, his voice firm, cutting through the soft buzz of the station's operational noises. As the scanner aligned, the faint aroma of ozone wafted through the command center, a byproduct of the high-energy operations running throughout the station. It mingled with the more earthy notes of coffee which had become a near-constant companion through their vigil. The enhanced image slowly materialized on the screen, revealing a small fleet of vessels, sleek and formidable, aligning with the station's docking ports. Their designs were unfamiliar, sleek lines merging with advanced technology in a way that spoke of a civilization prepared for both exploration and combat. "Analysis?" Jason asked, turning to a side console where a specialist was rapidly typing, her fingers a blur of motion. "Unknown vessel class, but I'm detecting high-energy signatures. They could be powering up, or preparing for something we won't like," she replied, her tone subdued, yet tinged with a professional edge that kept the mood from tipping into fear. Jason nodded slowly, processing this new piece of the puzzle. "Keep monitoring any transmissions or energy spikes. Anything they do, I want to know before they even think about it," he said, his strategy clear in his calm yet decisive demeanor. Outside, the nebula's gases swirled in a dance of cosmic winds and stellar echoes, painting a backdrop of moving art that belied the tension of the unfolding scene. The metallic taste of the station's recycled air seemed to thicken with anticipation, each breath drawn by the crew heavy with the gravity of their situation. Suddenly the screen flickered, and a burst of static washed over the image. A moment later, a fragmented message began to come through, a voice distorted by the nebular interference. "Requesting Midgard response," the voice called out, choppy and almost ghostly against the backdrop of static. "Boost the signal, clear it up," Jason commanded, leaning in as if to catch every syllable personally. The communications officer adjusted dials, enhancing the clarity until the message came through with less interference. "This is Scout Vessel Pax 7, requesting immediate dialogue with Midgard Command. We are not hostile. Jason exchanged a look with Hawkins, a silent conversation passing between them. Open a channel. Let's hear what they have to say, he decided, his voice a mix of caution and a newfound eagerness to unravel the mystery laid out before them. As the channel opened, the scent of machine oil and electricity seemed to underscore the moment, a sensory reminder of the thin line they walked between discovery and danger. Jason straightened, his entire being focused on the voice that would soon fill the room, potentially changing their understanding of the universe and their place within it. The channel crackled to life, and a clear, calm voice emerged from the static, resonating through Midgard Station's command center. Midgard Command, this is Captain Ilara Miles of the scout vessel PAX-7. We are part of a reconnaissance fleet from the United Human Colonies. We mean no harm. Commander Jason Mars stood firm, his posture rigid with cautious optimism. Captain Miles, this is Commander Jason Mars. We've observed your fleet's activity within the nebular sector. Can you explain your presence in this region? Ilara's response was immediate, her tone imbued with a sincerity that momentarily softened the electric tension hanging in the air. Certainly, Commander. Our presence here is part of a peaceful scientific mission. We've been monitoring an anomalous energy pattern within the nebula, which we believe could be crucial to understanding certain cosmic phenomena that affect all of us. Jason processed her words, the taste of skepticism mingling with curiosity on his tongue. And you chose not to approach the Galactic Council because we felt direct communication would be more effective, given the sensitive nature of our findings. Our intentions are strictly peaceful, Commander, Ilara assured, her voice smooth, almost soothing, contrasting sharply with the buzz of anxious whispers among Jason's crew. Maintain visuals on their fleet, Jason whispered to Lieutenant Hawkins, who nodded and adjusted the sensors, the soft clicks of his console a subtle reminder of the undercurrents of trust and doubt flowing through the room. The scent of coffee had grown stale in the air, overshadowed by a faint metallic whiff of the station's overworked systems. Jason's gaze remained fixed on the screen displaying the PAX-7, its hull gleaming dimly against the backdrop of the swirling nebula. Captain Miles, we will need verifiable evidence of your claims. If you are indeed on a scientific mission, transparency will be key to any further cooperation, Jason stated, his tone firm yet open, extending an olive branch wrapped in caution. Understood, Commander. We're prepared to share our data logs and research findings. I propose a face-to-face meeting to facilitate this exchange, Ilara suggested, her proposal hanging in the command center like a delicate thread, capable of weaving peace or snapping under the strain of hidden agendas. Jason paused, considering the potential risks and benefits. We will prepare for your arrival. Midgard Station will host this meeting. Let's keep this between our two ships for now. As the communication ended, the tangy zest of apprehension lingered, but so did the faint hint of potential alliance. Jason turned to his crew, his eyes scanning the room, taking in the mixture of relief and residual tension that marked their faces. Prepare the delegation room and increase security protocols. We don't know much about their technology or their true intentions, he instructed, his voice a blend of command and contemplative strategy. Outside, the nebula's gases danced like celestial spirits around the enigmatic human fleet, painting a picture of beauty and mystery against the canvas of the cosmos. As Midgard braced for this pivotal encounter, the scent of the unknown was as palpable as the recycled air they breathed, each molecule charged with the weight of forthcoming revelations. As preparations for the face-to-face meeting with Captain Ilara Miles and her delegation were underway, Commander Jason Mars surveyed Midgard Station's delegation room. The space had been transformed, the usual stark metallic surfaces now softened by the subtle placement of diplomatic flags and ambient lighting that cast a serene glow over the chamber. The scent of fresh paint mingled with the usual recycled air, a hint of pine masking the harder, colder undercurrents of machinery. Jason walked the room slowly, his steps silent on the newly laid carpet, a stark contrast to the usual clank of boots on metal that echoed through the corridors of the station. Lieutenant Hawkins adjusted a display panel, the soft whir of the device slicing through the calm. All communication channels are secured, and the room is shielded against any external surveillance. Jason nodded, his eyes briefly closing as he inhaled deeply, tasting the faint sweetness of the air freshener that fought against the backdrop of industrial sterility. "Let's hope this openness leads to trust, not betrayal," he murmured, more to himself than to Hawkins. The moment of reflection was shattered by the sound of the airlock cycling. The hiss and click of the seals disengaging were as crisp as the tension that suddenly tightened in Jason's chest. He turned to face the door, his posture rigid but his greeting smile practiced and welcoming. Captain Miles entered, flanked by two officers, their uniforms crisp and their expressions carefully neutral. The subtle scent of their cologne was a whisper of Earth, a reminder of shared humanity despite the unknowns between them. "Commander Mars, thank you for hosting us," Alara said, extending her hand, her voice clear and carrying a melody that hinted at both strength and diplomacy. "The pleasure is ours, Captain Miles. I trust your journey here was uneventful?" Jason replied, shaking her hand, the contact brief but firm. "As smooth as one could hope for in a nebula," Alara quipped, her smile briefly brightening the room. Her gaze then turned serious. "We appreciate your willingness to hear us out. I believe what we have to share will be of mutual interest." As they settled around the conference table, the soft rustle of fabric and the gentle clinking of glassware filled the room as attendants served water. The clarity of the liquid mirrored the transparency they hoped to achieve in the upcoming discussions. Alara activated a device, projecting a hologram of the nebula above the table, points of interest highlighted in pulsing light. "Our findings suggest that the anomalies here are not just natural phenomena, but are significantly influenced by artificial structures, possibly of ancient origin." Jason leaned forward, his interest piqued as the display zoomed in on several structures that defied simple explanation. "Artificial? Are you suggesting someone engineered this nebula?" "Not the nebula itself, but certain elements within it. Our preliminary scans detected irregularities that suggest intervention, details of which are still being deciphered," Alara explained, her fingers dancing lightly over the controls, refining the image. The room was charged with a new energy, curiosity mingling with the ever-present undercurrent of caution. As the meeting delved deeper into the scientific mysteries and political implications, the stars outside the station continued their ancient vigil, indifferent to the human dramas unfolding in their shadow. The dialogue that began in the serene setting of Midgard's delegation room would soon ripple outwards, carrying with it the potential to reshape boundaries and forge new alliances. The shuttle detached from Midgard Station, its hull gleaming under the distant starlight as it drifted toward the heart of the nebula. Inside, the air was thick with quiet tension, the only sounds the clipped voices of crew members confirming systems and the soft clatter of equipment being secured. Commander Jason Mars stood at the helm, his grip firm on the safety rail, as he watched the swirling clouds of cosmic dust stretch endlessly ahead. The nebula was alive with shifting hues, a celestial storm of crimson and violet weaving through its core like veins pumping an unseen force. Jason exhaled slowly, the recycled oxygen leaving a metallic aftertaste in his throat. The monitors flickered as the ship adjusted to the gravitational fluctuations ahead, the artificial gravity compensating with an almost imperceptible shift beneath his boots. "Approaching the anomaly," Lieutenant Hawkins reported, his voice low, steady, but laced with an edge of anticipation. Jason nodded, his eyes fixed on the display. The structures emerged from the mist like relics of a forgotten empire, their jagged spires stretching outward as if clawing at the void. Time had not eroded their form. Their sharp angles and symmetrical patterns spoke of precision beyond their current technological understanding. "These constructs weren't built to decay," Alara murmured from her station, her fingers skimming across her tablet, absorbing every reading as it streamed in. "They were meant to last." Jason narrowed his gaze. "Then why were they abandoned?" Silence answered him. The ship glided closer, the proximity sensors flashing warnings as the gravitational pull from the structures fluctuated. A deep vibration rippled through the hull, an unseen force pressing against the ship's defenses. "That's not random interference," Hawkins muttered, his fingers tightening over his console. "Something is responding to us." Jason straightened. "Energy source?" "Multiple," Alara replied, her voice clipped with urgency. "It's like they were dormant until we got close." The screens flashed with cascading data, signals fluctuating in erratic bursts. The flickering lights of the structures pulsed in unison, a sequence forming before their eyes. Jason felt the air grow denser, not physically, but in the weight of what they were witnessing. The rhythm wasn't chaotic. It was deliberate. A message. "They knew we'd come," Jason muttered under his breath. A sudden proximity alert blared through the cockpit. The crew snapped to attention as the nearest structure emitted a surge of energy, a luminous arc stretching outward in a movement that was neither aggressive nor passive, just calculated. "Whatever's inside it just woke up," Alara whispered. Jason's jaw tightened. "And it's watching us." The pulse from the structure intensified, bathing the ship in a pale blue light that seeped into the windows, casting eerie reflections across the faces of the crew. Outside, the nebula coiled around them, thickening, shifting, as if it too was aware. Jason inhaled deeply, his pulse steady but alert. They had come for answers, and now the unknown was staring back. A shimmer of blue light rippled across the ship's reinforced windows, reflecting off the polished metal surfaces inside. Commander Jason Mars stood motionless, his breath steady, but his pulse hammering with anticipation. The nebula churned outside, thick tendrils of cosmic vapor wrapping around the massive structures like restless phantoms stirred from slumber. The ship's monitors pulsed erratically, responding to the unknown energy signatures radiating from the structures. Lieutenant Hawkins's fingers darted across his console, his brow furrowed in concentration. "That's no random burst, Commander. The energy output is increasing, patterned, deliberate." Jason's gaze flicked between the shifting holographic data and the towering constructs outside. The luminous arcs of energy dancing between them had intensified, forming complex geometries too precise to be incidental. "They're reacting to us," he muttered, the weight of the observation sinking deep into his gut. Alara Miles studied the readings beside him, her voice measured yet edged with urgency. "More than that. It's as if they're testing our presence, gauging our response." The ship's proximity alarms flared again, the piercing chime forcing Jason's decision. "Hold position, but be ready for emergency maneuvers. No sudden movements. Let's see what they want." Outside, the largest structure shifted. Not physically, its vast metallic framework remained fixed, but something within it reoriented, focusing entirely on them. A luminous tendril of energy extended, spiraling toward the ship like a question waiting for an answer. The air inside the cockpit grew thick, not with temperature, but with tension that coiled like a wire stretched too tight. Jason's throat felt dry, the filtered oxygen suddenly less satisfying. He forced himself to breathe evenly, refusing to let the unknown rattle his control. The first impact wasn't physical. The ship trembled, not from force but from an interaction unseen. A faint vibration slithered through the walls, something beyond mechanical, beyond explainable. Jason's fingertips brushed the armrest of his chair, feeling the charge in the air, a sensation that wasn't entirely foreign, like static before a storm. Hawkins shot him a glance. "Commander, our primary systems, they're still online, but something's accessing them." Jason's pulse spiked. "Shut down external links now." "I already did," Hawkins countered, his voice tightening. "They're still getting through." Jason turned to Alara, who was already scanning the interference. "It's not an attack," she said, her voice laced with uncertainty. "They aren't corrupting anything. They're reading us." The realization sent an icy sensation down Jason's spine. Then we're an open book. Outside, the swirling energy coalesced into a structured shape, a symbol. It burned against the backdrop of the nebula, intricate and deliberate. Jason exhaled slowly, locking eyes with Alara. That's a message. Her voice was barely above a whisper. The real question is, who's sending it? The symbol burned against the nebula's swirling depths, an eerie beacon suspended in the void. Commander Jason Mars studied the shifting glyph, its luminous etchings pulsing like the breath of something ancient. His fingers curled against the cool metal of his console, resisting the instinct to react before understanding what lay before them. Alara Miles exhaled sharply beside him, her gaze locked on the projection. That's no accident. Someone, or something, wants us to see this. Lieutenant Hawkins swiped through layers of analysis, his voice clipped. It's not just a visual. There's an energy signature embedded in it, frequencies cycling in an irregular sequence, almost like... He hesitated, searching for the right word. Jason filled the gap. A code. Hawkins nodded. Exactly. But it's unlike any transmission we've ever intercepted. The silence in the cockpit thickened, stretching across the tense space between them. Outside, the ship's reinforced hull absorbed the residual energy radiating from the structure. The static charge prickled at Jason's skin, an unshakable sensation creeping through his nerves. The ship wasn't just seeing the message, it was feeling it. Run a comparative analysis, Jason ordered, his voice steady despite the unease coiling in his gut. Match it against historical archives, any known signal patterns. Alara's fingers danced across the interface, the soft glow of the screen casting sharp angles across her focused expression. The data scrolled rapidly, flickering through centuries of documented transmissions, but nothing matched. Nothing concrete, she admitted, shaking her head. This isn't from any known civilization in Galactic Council records. Jason's grip tightened on the edge of his chair, which means it could predate them. The ship trembled, not from external force, but something deeper. A shift, a recalibration. Hawkins' console flared with a new alert. Commander, something's changing. The symbol outside began to disassemble, its luminous strands unraveling into intricate streams of light. They bent and folded, coalescing into something new. Coordinates. A precise destination, marked deep within the nebula. Jason inhaled, the sterile tang of the ship's air pressing against his lungs like a weight. They want us to follow. Ilara's brow furrowed, skepticism warring with curiosity. And if it's a trap? Jason's jaw clenched. Then we set the rules. We go in controlled, scanners at full capacity, and with an exit strategy in place. The ship's lights dimmed momentarily as another pulse swept through its systems, almost as if the nebula itself was reacting to their choice. Hawkins muttered under his breath, reading the shifting numbers on his screen. Coordinates lock in 15 seconds. Jason straightened. Engage once locked. Alara's fingers hovered over the controls. We're about to step into something far older than we are. Jason met her gaze, a silent agreement passing between them. Then let's see who left the invitation. The coordinates locked in, glowing steadily on the navigation display. Commander Jason Mars exhaled slowly, his mind already sifting through every variable. The destination lay deep within the nebula, a region cloaked in electromagnetic interference, rendering conventional long-range scans unreliable. This wasn't just a journey into the unknown. It was a tactical operation that demanded precision. Ilara, run predictive modeling, Jason ordered. I want a risk assessment for every possible approach. Alara Miles nodded, fingers gliding across her console. The ship's AI processed thousands of variables: stellar drift, gravitational fluctuations, density pockets of charged gas, crafting a real-time trajectory. Best entry vector calculated, she announced. We maintain a narrow corridor here. She highlighted a path through the shifting nebula. But if those structures emit another energy pulse, it could destabilize our route. Jason studied the projection, his expression unreadable. We'll need manual course corrections. Hawkins, divert control to secondary navigation. We fly this by hand. Hawkins tapped into the system, rerouting auxiliary functions to allow for real-time maneuvering. Autopilot's off. We adjust course as needed. Jason's gaze flicked to the weapons officer, a veteran named Rourke. Weapons offline. No hostile posturing. But I want a countermeasure package ready in case something tries to lock onto us. Rourke nodded. Deploying passive defenses. If anything tracks us, we'll know before they do. Jason moved to the central control panel, activating a tactical overlay. We need an exit strategy. If this is a trap, we can't afford to be boxed in. Alara shifted the display, her jaw tightening. Our safest fallback is a controlled slingshot out of the nebula's gravity well. If we boost at the right moment, we can ride the gravitational eddy out before interference scrambles our systems. Jason considered it. Risk factor? High, she admitted, but better than sitting targets. Jason straightened. Then we move forward with precision. Rourke, maintain defensive awareness. Hawkins, keep communications open but encrypted. If this turns bad, we need a clear relay back to Midgard. The ship trembled slightly as they adjusted course. The nebula's density increased, its gaseous tendrils shifting unpredictably. A soft vibration thrummed through the walls, not mechanical but something else. A resonance. Ilara's screen flared with a new alert. Energy buildup. Rapid. It's coming from the structures. Jason's pulse remained steady. Hold position. Let's see what they do. Outside, the nebula coiled and pulsed. From the void, 3 new signals emerged, shapes indistinct, but undeniably there. Jason leaned forward. We have company. Alara's voice was quiet but firm. They were waiting for us. Jason's gaze locked onto the 3 approaching signals, their movements methodical, precise. Shapes flickered against the dense nebular backdrop, metallic silhouettes shifting in controlled arcs, neither openly hostile nor retreating. They weren't drifting aimlessly. They were positioning. Ilara, threat assessment, Jason commanded, his voice steady but edged with calculation. Ilara's fingers danced across the interface, data streaming in rapid bursts. Size and mass suggest mid-range vessels, possibly corvettes. No standard emission signatures. Their hulls are absorbing most scans, but we're picking up localized gravitational distortions. Jason's mind worked through the possibilities. Stealth systems? More advanced than anything on record, Ilara confirmed. And they're holding formation. They want us to know they're here. Hawkins muttered under his breath, recalibrating the ship's defensive grid. That means they either don't see us as prey or they're confident they can take us if this goes south. Jason nodded, eyes narrowing. We don't break formation, no sudden movements. Outside, the nebula pulsed with shifting hues, the interplay of gas and energy painting eerie streaks of light across the viewports. The ship's stabilizers compensated for another gravitational shift, the artificial gravity pressing momentarily heavier against their limbs before readjusting. They're testing our response, Ilara murmured, watching the subtle adjustments in the unknown ship's alignment. Jason made his decision. Transmit a neutral response, encrypted ping, acknowledge their presence, nothing more. Hawkins hesitated but complied, fingers skimming across his console. A pulse left their ship, a carefully measured signal devoid of aggression, yet unmistakably deliberate. The response was immediate. The 3 ships broke formation, spreading in a controlled arc, each vessel adjusting its position relative to Jason's ship. Flanking, Rourke muttered from the weapons station. If they decide to engage, they'll try to cut off our exit. Jason's fingers tightened over the armrest. Ilara, factor in their trajectory. If this escalates, we need a retreat vector. She was already working through the possibilities. We can push through the gravity well, but the turbulence will be brutal. We'd have to time it perfectly. Jason considered it. If they ran too soon, it could be seen as weakness. If they held too long, they risked being surrounded. Then, the largest of the unknown vessels made its move. A single beam of light, thin and deliberate, extended from the ship's forward array. It wasn't an attack, it was a transmission. Hawkins adjusted the frequencies. It's coming through as a data burst. Decrypt it, Jason ordered. Lines of symbols flooded the screen, complex and interwoven, similar to the patterns they'd seen earlier. Ilara's eyes widened. Jason, these match the structures. This isn't just a patrol force. They belong to whatever built them. The weight of the realization settled over the crew like a heavy pressure in the chest. Jason exhaled slowly, his decision already forming. Then we just met the architects. Jason stared at the transmission, the alien symbols scrolling across the screen in rhythmic pulses, each line echoing the unmistakable precision of intent. These weren't just remnants of an extinct civilization, they were warnings, or instructions. And the ships facing them weren't wanderers. They were guardians. Alara's voice cut through the tension. It's not just a message, it's a directive. They're telling us where to go. Hawkins ran another diagnostic. They're not targeting us, but they're waiting. Holding formation, keeping us boxed in, but not attacking. Jason's jaw tightened. They want compliance. A silence stretched across the bridge, heavy as the abyss beyond the viewport. Outside, the three alien ships remained locked in their positions, their dark hulls absorbing the shifting hues of the nebula. The structures in the distance pulsed once more, their faint glow intensifying as if acknowledging their arrival. Rourke shifted slightly at the weapons console. If we go where they want, we're walking blind. But if we refuse, they might not keep standing down. Jason inhaled, feeling the weight of history pressing against the moment. We don't run from the unknown. We confront it. Ilara's eyes locked onto his. Are you sure that's what they want? Confrontation? Jason's voice was unwavering. Number, but if they wanted us dead, we'd already be vapor. He turned toward Hawkins. Keep broadcasting minimal signals, neutral intent only. If they think we're a threat, we lose control of this encounter. The ship vibrated under the strain of the nebula's shifting gravity. The distant structures responded in kind, a deep, resonant pulse rolling through the ship's sensors, neither attack nor invitation, just recognition. Alara studied the data as new coordinates appeared, overlaid against the galactic map. They've recalculated our course. Whatever's buried in that sector, they're leading us straight to it. Jason straightened. Then we find out what they think we're meant to see. Rourke's hands hovered over the weapons panel. And if it's not just a message waiting for us out there, Jason's voice was like steel, then we teach them why humanity never needed permission to survive. A silence followed, taut with anticipation. Outside, the alien ships shifted position, aligning with the new trajectory, waiting for the human vessel to follow. Alara's voice was quiet but charged. If we do this, there's no turning back. Jason nodded once, his gaze never leaving the forward viewport. There never was. The ship surged forward, its course set. The nebula curled around them, parting like a veil drawn back to reveal what lay beyond. The structures pulsed in answer, their lights intensifying as the ship crossed the threshold. The void no longer felt empty. Something was waiting. The nebula thinned as the ship surged forward, slipping through the threshold like a blade through silk. Commander Jason Mars stood unblinking, his breath even as the veil of cosmic dust peeled away, revealing what lay beyond. The structures stretched vast and unbroken, their forms ancient yet unmarred by time. They pulsed in synchrony, their geometric patterns shifting, reacting to the ship's presence. In the center of it all, a construct loomed, a monolith, taller than anything they had encountered, its surface etched with the same unreadable symbols that had led them here. Alara's voice was tight with realization. This isn't just a waypoint, it's a stronghold. Jason's gaze sharpened. Then we're not the first to reach this place. Hawkins' fingers flew across his console, decrypting the endless stream of data flooding in. There's something embedded in these signals. A directive. It's ancient, predating every known galactic empire. The screens flickered, then stabilized. The monolith's glow intensified, its surface shifting as if something inside had stirred. A voice, neither mechanical nor entirely organic, resonated through their systems, its cadence smooth yet weighted with command. Humanity. A single word, not a question, a confirmation. Jason's spine straightened, his fingers curling into his palms. The crew's eyes darted toward him, waiting for his response. He met the gaze of the monolith through the viewport, his voice unwavering. "We're here." Silence, deep and stretching. Then the structures responded. The nebula churned around them, tendrils of light spiraling from the monolith like circuitry coming to life. A projection flared into existence, a rendering of the galaxy, but not as they knew it. Borders burned. Worlds, unmarked and forgotten, were suddenly accounted for. Ilara's breath caught. That's not a map. That's a warfront. The realization settled over them like iron. The monolith wasn't a relic. It was a warning system. Jason exhaled, slow and measured. This place was never abandoned. It was left behind, until the right people came looking. The alien ships flanking them held position, their intent unreadable. But they hadn't attacked. They had brought them here. That alone meant something. Hawkins' voice was low. "They knew we'd figure it out." Jason's eyes darkened. "Number. They needed us to." The weight of the moment pressed down, the meaning stretching beyond the nebula, beyond Midgard, beyond anything the Galactic Council had ever understood. Humanity had been seen, acknowledged, tested, and they had passed. Jason turned toward the bridge, his voice even. "Transmit a single message back to Midgard. Full encryption." Ilara hesitated. "What do we tell them?" Jason looked once more at the vast, pulsing network of constructs, at the map written in war, at the expectation, no, the certainty, that humanity's arrival had been part of something larger. He stepped forward. "Tell them the battle zone has been breached.